Hello, everybody. I was about to say good morning, but as I'm recording this, it's only 2 o'clock. Um, Hi, I'm Kelsey. I make comics and also a lot of art. Today, I'm going to be live streaming my process of character design and character concept art for a little personal project that I've been doing. My personal project that I've been working on for the last few live streams has been designing characters for a fighting game that right now it only exists in my head. But the fighting game in question features a character roster starring all Black characters. Some of these characters are original creations, some characters are figures from history, because I think that would just be neat. That's what I'm going to be working on today is character concept art for this little personal project. Show you a little bit of my process. I actually have 3 characters in 3 different stages of completion. I have one that's been sketched but needs to be inked. I have another that's been inked but needs to be colored. I have one that has the flat colors added in already, but it just needs a little more dynamic, so it needs shadows and highlights. So I have all 3 of those all lined up and ready to go. Before I go any further, if you're watching this on YouTube, I know you hear this a lot, but if you can just give this stream a like on YouTube, that actually helps boost my views up in the algorithm so more people can see what I'm doing. That would be super helpful. If you're watching this on Twitch, feel free to subscribe. If you're watching this on Twitter, feel free to follow me. And we already got some comments coming in. Hi, Jessica. Jessica is one of the regulars here. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you're having a good weekend so far. It's unreasonably warm. It's Ohio warm, so it's like 40 something degrees. So that's why I'm just wearing one layer. I just want to show this off. Before we get to the art, I want to show off this little sweater that I got in the mail yesterday. I love it so much. I first saw this on my friend Carlos. I'm sure Carlos will show up in the live stream chat very soon. But I saw this and he sent me the link to get it pre-ordered, and it finally arrived yesterday. This is the most comfy sweater, aside from the rainbow sweater that I knitted. But this is one of the comfiest sweaters that I now own, and I love it. It's so snug. I'm really surprised that it fits as well as it does. Most times when I order t-shirts online, they're either too big or too small. Isn't it adorable though? I love it. I love it so much. It is a unity of like some of my favorite like comics eras, like it's mirrored. But like just the unity of like Western comics and Eastern comics, and particularly Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball is just such a fun manga to read. If you ever get a chance to read it, please do. Oh my gosh. As soon as I remember this artist's name, I'm going to tag him in an Instagram post. So be sure to follow me on Instagram so that you can follow the dude who designed this shirt, because he releases this design like every so often. It's like a period thing. Because this was not the first line. This was like a reprint. But I'll be sharing that information on Instagram, and you can find that at linktree/KelseyD. Ooh, having a nice weekend, working later, but that will be quick, and taking Monday off for our 6th anniversary. Well, congratulations on the anniversary. That's awesome. And I feel you on the working thing. I almost took a shift this morning to work at the craft store that I work part-time at to stock the shelves, but I was like, yesterday kicked my butt. I'm not going in, and I got a lot of writing that I have to catch up on, and art, like these character designs. I think because I had talked about these different stages that these different art pieces are in, I would like to do this kind of in reverse order. Rather than showing you the stages going from penciled to inked to color flatted to making it dynamic, I'm going to do it in the inverse. I'm going to show you the one character who's been color flatted already, who is this character. I'm going to show you how I make that dynamic, adding shadows and highlights. Then I'll go to Yasuke the Samurai and show the color flat process. And then once that color flat process is done, if we got the time to, I will jump over to Bass Reeves and show you the inking process. So we're going to do it a little backwards. And I'll admit this is for purely selfish reasons, because I have on my little like list of goals to achieve for this week that I wanted to get 2 character designs done before Sunday came. And just doing it in reverse order like this is the surest way for making sure that that actually happens for me. I realize this is probably going to be really confusing for y'all who are not too familiar with the art making process, but man, this is my channel. I do what I want. I see. I'm a systems administrator type. Occasional weekend work doesn't bother me. I feel that. Jessica. I'm not bothered by weekend work either. Largely because since 2013, I had been doing conventions. I have been doing conventions much lately, but you know, comic conventions, anime conventions, other such conventions are usually a weekend affair. It's a very rare instance when they happen like on a Thursday. The Thursday shows are, from what I've seen, really only something that like gaming conventions and maybe anime conventions do. But even then, Thursdays are like VIP pass holder things. Speaking of conventions, before I forget, I am in talks right now with HerdCon. HerdCon is March 5th. I was talking with them because I wanted to show up in person at their show, but because of, budget reasons, I just don't really have the funds to go down to the show to showcase my stuff. But they were very generous enough to let me live stream for their show. So March 5th, the Saturday stream that I'm doing that day is going to be a special one for HerdCon. So look forward to that. All right, let's get to making art. I was going to say get back to making art. We haven't started yet. Let's get to the art making. Before I forget, I'm just going to show a little link at the bottom of the screen, thelegendofjamieroberts.com, which is a webcomic that I do. Feel free to check that out whenever you are set. Okay, let's get to this. Okay, when I pick the color for the shadows, I like to look at my color wheel for reference. I think for this, I'm going to get a color swatch just so I can see like the general color palette that's going on, like all in one place. Okay, there we go. I will say having a gray background is super helpful whenever you're working with elements of a character design that has white. Gray is a nice neutral color to make stuff pop. So, okay. We're dealing with a lot of browns and blues. So let me look at my color wheel here and see what would be a complement to those. Or like within the same wheelhouse. So color wheel. One side is tints. The other side is shades. We're going to use the shade side. All right. So we got the brown, which brown is more in the neighborhood of oranges. So at least according to the color wheel, it's in the neighborhood of orange. So we're going to do with that. Okay. So the complement of orange and browns are going to be blues Blues are already in the color wheel, and so are purples. So I'm going to do a almost like a triad. Triad is set up as like a little pyramid in that center there. We're going to do a little triad, and we're going to have the shadows be not purple because purple's already represented. We're going to have the shades be green. We'll probably have the highlights also be in a green tint. So now we got that figured out. Ooh, that sounds awesome. Live stream for a convention, doesn't it though? Like I love live streaming for conventions. Like it's one of my favorite things. All right, now let's get a green tint. Oh, let's just color sample the headband that we got going on there. Okay. And we'll make that a little bit darker. A little more green. Yeah, that'll work. All right. Now that we got that, I'm going to just boop, keep that, and we're going to make a new layer. Control Shift New. That's the hotkeys that I use for that. Name this layer Shades. Set it to multiply. Opacity 35%. All right. Ooh, I'm going to cheat a little bit with ooh. Well, for I am going to cheat a little bit with regards to applying shades here, but I am also figuring out the angle at which I want the light to hit this character. And I usually default to having the light source be like here, but I'm actually going to do it differently this time. I'm going to have the light source this kind of direction, beaming more almost directly at her. Or her then. Both. They use both. All right. So we're going to use the lasso tool this time to select some wide swaths. Let's try it again. Oh, I forgot. The paint bucket was set to refer only to editing layer. We're going to change that to refer other layers. That's better. I was previously in Clip Studio Paint working on another project that involved a lot of referencing only the single layer when using the paint bucket tool, so I had to change that up a bit. Oh, I have it on Turnip Pen. I would like to have. Yeah, we're gonna make it real G Pen instead because the line art was done in Turnip Pen. Pretty sure. I have to look at a previous live stream to reference that. I know you can do that if you go to my YouTube channel and check out my previous live streams because they all get archived on YouTube after they go live. But if I remember right, I used real G Pen to ink this in. Okay. Sorry. I'm going to have to be right back. Bear with me. Thanks for bearing with me. Nature called. Could not ignore. Whew. All right, back to making art. Yeah, we're going to use Real G Pen for this. There we go. Next week, I'll go ahead and say this. Next week, I'll be able to live stream more. Assuming that the craft store that I'm working at part-time doesn't pull any weird little scheduling shenanigans on me. Because I looked at the schedule for next week, I'll actually have more time to live stream stuff. So I'll be doing my usual Tuesday, Saturday here on YouTube/Twitch/Twitter. I'm also looking to perhaps stream again on Instagram because I had done a little stream on Instagram. It was short, but it was good. And I had a fun time with it. I also have a little like phone mounted camera set up. Can I get it in the frame? There we go. I think that's good enough. But like I have one of these, which makes it fairly easy to set up to stream on Instagram, or if I really wanted to, TikTok, but I have not done any TikTok streams yet. Every once in a great while, I'll think to myself, I should really get rid of Instagram. And then I realize that like Instagram and TikTok and Tumblr are the only social media platforms that I have. Like, yes, I'm streaming on Twitter, but Twitter is for the funsies. It's not really for work. And I'm not 100% sure that I want to leave Instagram yet because I had left Facebook, I want to say in 2020. I don't 100% recall anymore. It's been so long. Oh, wait, there we go. But I left Facebook a long, long while ago. Even though I had like a Facebook page for my art business on there, it was not getting as much traction as at the time Instagram or other platforms. So I was like, you know what? I just nah. Facebook was not working for me as a business entity. So I was like, I'm not going to try to make it work. I'm just going to go to the platforms that I know do work and do it that way. Doing that, though, meant leaving a lot of people for whom Facebook was their only social media platform. Granted, that was a lot of like older people, but I do not regret leaving Facebook when I did. Especially since it was not that long ago that their tank just their stock tanked. Got my words jumbled up there. I forgot. When doing shadows, it's sometimes helpful to have the color flat layer off because the paint bucket tool, which I like to use when putting shadows into things, sometimes can't really tell the difference between certain colors. So sometimes it's just more helpful to turn the color flat layer off so that when you are using the refer other layers feature, it's not misreading the colors. Okay. I'm going to use the lasso tool again here. Oh. Okay. It selected an area that I did not want selected, but I want the inverse of it. So I'm going to use this command on this little toolbar here. Third one from the left, invert selected area. Now I can shade the area that I want. There we go. That's helpful. Move back over this direction. Okay. And then little nooks, little curls right in through here. Mm. I've been doing a thing on Instagram called Fan Art February, where I post fan arts every day during the month of February. Some of the fan arts, which I will get to eventually, um, some of the fan arts that I do want to draw will hopefully intersect with Black History Month a little bit. The tricky part of finding good representation of Black characters in like comics and anime and things is that before a certain point in pop culture history, the representations were not good. So like I'm erring on the side of caution and doing my best to pick good, tasteful characters to draw fan arts of. For example, I do want to draw 008 from Cyborg 009 for fan art February. However, the original source material version of Cyborg 008 is not a character that I will be drawing because he is a racist caricature because he was drawn in Japan. Japan apparently never got rid of blackface. It's wildly uncomfortable. Um, in fact, most Japanese depictions of Black characters are wildly uncomfortable. The most notable exception that I can think of in recent memory is Varys from the anime Promare. He's probably one of the best Black characters that I have seen in anime in a long time. And I was legitimately surprised about that because, like, he was not drawn overtly caricature-y. He's fulfilling the Black stereotype of being like the strongest guy on the team. It's funny because Promare is like he has superhuman strength, but they never actually show. So like this is like a tell don't show kind of scenario with this character. It's kind of funny. But aside from that, um like shout it out in the comments if there's like Black characters that are not from the Boondocks that you think would be worthy of highlighting in fan art February. Um, Now I haven't seen everything, so if there's like a property that you think I have not seen yet that you think that hey this might jive well, feel free to recommend that. I might give it a watch. I actually caught the tail end of on Netflix. There's a show called Archive 81. So like cool build up, cool shit. The ending could have been done differently. I'll just say that. And not in a like okay, I'll say this. Like from what I had seen of how they treated the Black character of that show, Archive 81, they did a good job. However, um I have to get into spoiler territory to talk about what my grievance is with this show. And I kind of don't want to spoil it because this is a newer property and I don't know how many of y'all have seen this. Oh, catching up on comments. I had mentioned Facebook earlier. Biggest loss in stock valuation in the history of the stock market. Yeah, I'm not surprised that Facebook would hold that particular kind of record. Uh, it's funny. I don't have any stock in Facebook, which is why I can laugh about it. For people who did have stock in Facebook, I'm sorry. That sucks. um like I mean, the stock market has been rough lately. To the point where I'm just not going to put any money in it now. I had been putting a little bit for a Roth IRA that I have, but I'm not going to worry about it for the time being, honestly. I'm going to focus more on some other like financial goals that I have rather than funneling anything into Roth IRA when there's not going to be any kind of return on anything. Actually, thinking about stocks and how it sometimes feels like gambling, thinking about gambling made me think of cryptocurrencies. And that reminds me, this upcoming week, I am going to articulate a longer blog post and a longer Kickstarter update um, regarding whether I'm going to stay on Kickstarter or not. Um, because this was announced a little while back ago, but Kickstarter made the announcement that they're going to start working with blockchain technology. And I think that's a really bad idea. Not just because of the environmental impact. Obviously, the environmental impact has been talked about to death. But I don't want them to put any kind of stock in blockchain technology because of security issues. And I will articulate that in more detail when I make the blog post. But um, if you want a pretty good idea of why blockchain technology is actually really bad for security reasons, um, well, first of all, I imagine that Jessica in the comments would be able to articulate it better than I could. But um, Folding Ideas on YouTube did a video called "The Problem with NFTs," and in that he has to talk about crypto broadly before he can get into NFTs specifically. And it's when he's talking about crypto and how crypto uses blockchain technology, which means talking about blockchain technology as a whole. The more that I heard about it, the more I'm like, this is a massive security issue. Why do people want to put personal information on the blockchain? This is a bad idea. Because, like, there's so much wrong with it. I'm going to save it for the update because then I can better articulate my thoughts about it. But yikes. Oh, catching up on comments. Talking about Black character representation, Arch of Winter brings up Sakaki from Keep Your Hands Off Aizuken. That's the one about the schoolgirls that want to start a animation studio, I believe, because I remember watching a clip of that and I thought that was wildly imaginative. But okay. Further elaboration on Sakaki. She's black, and even in the Japanese live action adaptation, she is played by a black actress. Well, good. Good. That is good work. Good job, Japan. You get a gold star today. Oh, Jessica apparently actually does not know much about crypto. But I will say my exposure to crypto has been seeing it in the news, in the email newsletter that I'm subscribed to, which is largely business focused, and also watching Dan Olson's video called "The Problem with NFTs." That's been the primer for everything that I know about crypto and NFTs and blockchain technology. And like I said before, blockchain is not that secure. Like, Dan Olson talks about it more in his video. The evangelists who love crypto will say that it's secure because it is resistant to so-called man-in-the-middle attacks. The problem is man-in-the-middle attacks, as far as hacking, is not what comprises most fraud. Most fraud is other things that crypto and blockchain technology more broadly is not well equipped to handle. Because here's the thing, and this is something I will be mentioning in this blog post that I will be writing up. Blockchain technology was designed to be open source. Open source things are not built for privacy. They are built so that anybody can look at the code, so that anybody can customize it. Now, the reason that blockchain technology is open source like this, or at least has like open source ethos in mind, is because when they designed it for Bitcoin, they wanted the code to be visible so that you could track where the Bitcoin was minted, who minted it, when it was minted, and who bought how many. That was the aim with blockchain technology as used to make Bitcoin. Now, part of the reason why it's an environmental drain is because the computers used to process all of this blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies and making cryptocurrencies is that it does an enormous amount of redundant work. And the reason it does this enormous amount of redundant work is to prove that it's not fraudulent. So they'll just do redundant tasks over and over again to be like, this is not fake coins. We did not make extra duplicates. We are working within the rules, loose as they are. Like, and unfortunately, a lot of redundant work takes up a lot of energy, which is why blockchain technology has the environmental impact that it does. Like, Dan Olson can go into more detail about it. I'm more concerned about it on the security front because, like I mentioned, blockchain technology is open source, which means everything is visible, which means that anybody can look at, for example, a person's name, a person's address, a person's credit card information, potentially a person's social security number. And the thing about blockchain technology that enables things like Bitcoins and NFTs and things is that they are not built for security. They are built to make redundant work. And they're built so that you could look at the code. Now, evangelists will try to say that it's resistant to man-in-the-middle attacks, which means that you can't go into the middle of the code and inject things. Trust me, people have found ways to do it anyway. So not a fan of that. And also, I'm not a fan of blockchain technology being able to track that kind of personal information. And the fact that Kickstarter wants to partner with blockchain technology just means it can be really easy for somebody to, and like easier than it already is now. Because at least now there's, two-factor authentication. There's, the robot test that John Mulaney so infamously joked about. Like, those are measures that already exist. They do not exist in blockchain technology. I'll talk about it in more detail in my blog post, but suffice it to say, I do not trust blockchain technology, and the fact that Kickstarter wants to put eggs in this basket is, I think, a bad move, a categorically bad move. Yeah, as Archer Winter brought up, you can't delete stuff off of the blockchain. Anyone can view the info stored on them. So, like, old information in the blockchain is just as valid as new information. But that also means, say, for example, that you are a transgender person that has stuff on the blockchain. If somebody finds out an old name of yours, that makes it really easy for particular people to find that information and harass you with it. And considering that most of my audience is transgender people, closeted or not, I don't like this. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Arch of Winter also brings up you can put a contract into other people's crypto wallet without the person's permission. Those contracts can stipulate that if you delete it, you'll agree to transfer all funds from your wallet. This is also how a lot of fraudsters will fraud people out of their crypto holdings. And this is way more common than you think it is. um, I'm guessing Kickstarter just wants to cash influx from crypto investors and make NFTs. It would cost them too much money to actually use blockchain tech on their back end. Well, yes, there is that. They probably do want to make NFTs. NFTs are also a wildly bad idea because they're not even clear on what you're purchasing with the NFT. Are you purchasing the copyright? Are you purchasing the trademark? Are you purchasing the rights to print it? Are you purchasing the rights to publish it? What are you buying when you buy an NFT? No one knows. And no one offers any kind of clarity on it. And I hate it. I am very passionate about how very much not into NFTs I am. Yeah, if anybody asks me, hey, are you going to do NFTs? I'll just be like, NFT, no fucking thanks. As somebody that has a brainstem who has looked over contracts many, many times, I can tell you right now, NFTs are a bad idea. And it's also like, because of that Dan Olson video, I came to discover that there are people who legitimately think that they can make a cryptocurrency based on Inuyasha and use the image of Inuyasha for their monopoly money and think that they can get away with it. For the record, they cannot, because Inuyasha is both copyrighted and trademarked. And as we've seen with Totally Not Mark, certain Japanese companies are really prickly about any kind of use of their media. Whether it's for like private or like review purposes, excuse me, even for like fair use commentary and review purposes, Japanese companies that publish anime and manga really do not like when people use stuff, even in fair use cases. They are really not going to like when they find out that people are using the image and likeness of Inuyasha as a monopoly currency that people are using real money to buy. There's just so much. There's so much about NFTs and cryptocurrencies that these rich dude bros do not understand. And yet they funnel their money into it because they are desperately lonely and looking for some way to try to game the system to their advantage because they think that investing in cryptocurrencies, blockchain technology, and NFTs are going to be the way to show Wall Street that, hey, Wall Street, you wrecked the economy in 2008. Well, we're going to do better than you, except they're not. This blockchain technology fad is just the housing bubble in 2008, but I have so many thoughts. I have so many thoughts about this, and none of them are positive. So let's talk about something else. The shadows are done on this character. Yay. I try not to talk about anything negative on these live streams, but like, oh good lord. I just have there's so many thoughts about cryptocurrencies, NFTs, and blockchain technology, and none of these thoughts are positive. All right, we got the shadows done. Time to add in some highlights. So new layer, and we're going to set that to screen, and we're going to, on the color wheel, we're just going to flip it. Let's add a little more blue. There we go. Well, right now the opacity of this layer is at 100. We're going to change that to 75%. I think that'll do. It's like I may not know much about cryptos and NFTs and things, but what I do know fills me with a burning hatred. The same sorts of feelings that, and people who are fans of Firefly will know this feeling. That feeling that you have when you think about the death of the character Wash in Serenity, those are the kinds of feelings that I have regarding crypto and NFTs. Like, it is that fiery. Oh, catching up on comments. Have you heard about the Dune pitch Bible? Yes, I heard about that, and I am laughing about it still to this day because those crypto bros are absolutely rock stupid. They bought a digital copy of a book. They bought a digital copy of Dune, thinking that gave them the right to make an animated series. For the record, it does not. The rights to make an animated series are an entirely different set of rights. Oh my god. Just it is hilariously upsetting that these people do, like, they think they know what they're talking about and they don't, and they're dooming us all. And no, not ironically, a lot of crypto bros nowadays are Wall Street bros. That is not ironic. That's just crypto is just hyper capitalism. It's not anti-capitalist, it's just more capitalism. That's all it is. Excuse me. I'm gonna have some water. I worked out my vocal cords on that one. Anyway, let's talk about something a little bit more positive, because the more that I think about NFTs and cryptocurrencies, it makes me so angry. And Arch of Winter, your most recent comments are not helping. Like, I appreciate that you're adding to the conversation and you're offering clarity, but the more that I read about it, the more I'm like, oh god damn it. Just crypto bros, the fuck are you doing with your lives? Ruining everybody else's is what you're doing. Anyway, you know what? Let's talk about comics anthologies. I actually recently got accepted into an anthology. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about it because I still need to sign the excuse me. While I still do need to sign the non-disclosure agreement, or NDA for short, I'm not going to talk too much about it just in case. But there is a short story that I'm writing for this anthology that talks about my 3-week trip to Navajo Nation. And at the same time, because here's the thing, when I went to Navajo Nation, it was May of 2011. And I did not find out about this until we were driving back from the trip and heading back to Ohio. Apparently, um, there was a guy, Harold Camping, who was screaming that the end of the world would come on May 21st, 2011 at 6 p.m. And I quote, local time. Did not specify a time zone. When he said local time, the implication was it would strike at 6 o'clock in each individual time zone. So, like, and there were other things involved in this prophecy as well. Like this idea that, on May 21st, 2011 at 6 o'clock, there will be enormous earthquakes and they shall cause tsunamis that will go so far inland that they will cover Colorado, which is freaking hilarious because none of that happened. None of us on the trip to Navajo Nation knew about this until May 21st when we were driving back, because the entire time that we were in Navajo Nation, we did not have access to electricity. Half the time we didn't have access to running water. So a lot of the story that I'm making for this comics anthology is talking about how Christians have this like unique obsession with the apocalypse. But for Native Americans and for a lot of other people, the apocalypse has already happened. And I would argue, because of gesturing at everything wildly right now, that we are in a post-apocalyptic time. It's just that people don't like to admit that. But this short story that I'm writing is going to be talking a lot about like what even is an apocalypse, what would it look like, and what would life look like after the apocalypse in real time. Like what would it genuinely look like? Not some like Hollywood contrivances. Like how would everyday people handle it? Because realistically, and I'm going to be blunt, there is a movie called Powwow Highway that it centers on Native Americans. Like it stars Native Americans, made by Native Americans. It features Native American voices. And at one point in the movie, there was a discussion about the apocalypse, and one of the Native American characters was like, the apocalypse has already happened. And there are all kinds of like journalistic pieces out there now that are like, you know, white people are so obsessed with apocalypses, but for the Native Americans, this is already reality. And they are just living in a post-apocalyptic world. And this is something that I don't think a lot of people want to acknowledge to themselves. Come to think of it, I actually have a comic. It's still work in progress. The script is. I haven't even like drawn any art for it outside of concept art. But there's a comic that I have called The Others, and The Others is spelled with a U, so Uthers, The Others. This comic, I'm going to make it more a post-apocalyptic, since I've been talking about post-apocalypses and what that would genuinely look like. Because like in a way it kind of already is. Thinking about what I have written for the first draft of the script, it is post-apocalyptic. It's just I hadn't approached it with that deliberate kind of framing in mind. Now I think when I revisit it for the second draft, I'm going to make that a little more overt. Okay. Oh, looking at the comments. Arch of Winter, I do appreciate your comments. I'm sorry that I blew up like that. It it's not you. I'm not mad at you. I'm just very agitated at the state of most things. But it's not you. Like you are not the problem. And I just want to make that clear. So I'm sorry that it came across like that. If I came across like that, I'm sorry. That was not the intent. The intent was just to be agitated at scenarios as a whole, because it's, that anger is justified, but it was not supposed to be directed at you. Sorry, my tablet got dusty. Oh, that's a good question, actually. How do you script comics? Do you do so by text or do you make rough layouts? It depends on the project. So with the short comic that I was just talking about, okay, I'm still glad that we got that out of the air. That you didn't. I'm agitated by the scenario too. I'm glad that we were both on the same page there, my dude. Back to the discussion about scripting comics. It kind of depends on the project. There are some comics that I'll do like a proper, like, typed out script. And then there are some comics that I just do rough layouts for. The short story that I just talked about juxtaposing my trip to Navajo Nation and juxtaposing it with, this dude on Christian radio saying that May 21st was going to be the rapture. That short comic that I'm making, I'm actually just doing rough page layouts. Like, I have an outline and I have particular story beats that I want to hit, but I'm just going to be doing just straight rough layouts and sending those to the editor once that's done. But there are also some projects, like I had just brought up The Others. The Others, I typed that out, actually, with the rough draft. The rough draft, I typed it out, like on a word processor and everything. My preferred writing software is currently LibreOffice. And the reason that I go with LibreOffice is because at the time I was like, do I go with OpenOffice or LibreOffice? I've been working with OpenOffice for such a long time. And then I had read someplace that OpenOffice had some security issues with it and didn't necessarily value user privacy. So I went with LibreOffice because LibreOffice professed itself as to being built on the same kind of software as OpenOffice, but actually respects the privacy of the users. And I was like, I'll take that. So LibreOffice is currently my preferred word processing software. Also, my Google Drive is kind of full. So that's a factor. I also use Dropbox has a text editor feature where you can just write straight up .text files. And I use that a lot when writing just novels, because I do write prose. I just haven't really shown it publicly. That's more for personal reasons. When it comes to writing comics, I usually either use the Dropbox text editor or I use LibreOffice. I have not tried Scrivener yet. Lots of writer folks that I know on particularly AuthorTube, which is just YouTube, but for authors. It's a subset of YouTube. But on AuthorTube, people will talk about Scrivener like a lot. I haven't used it yet. There are some that will also, rather than using Scrivener, they'll use Evernote. I have not used Evernote to write stories, but I do use it a lot, especially lately, like a lot, to just make random notes. That way I don't have like thousands of like paper slips floating around every place. I still have paper slips floating around in a lot of places, but not as many as I did before. But the first draft of a comic is typed out. Then I let it sit for a while, and that And that a while can encompass anywhere between 6 months to a couple of years. But it has to be long enough that I've kind of forgotten what I've written. And then when I go in for the second draft is where I usually make the switch to just thumbnailing a comic, and thumbnails are like drawing out rough layouts. Sometimes making the characters look like little stick figures, sometimes actually making some more solid fleshed out art. Here, I'll show what I mean by thumbnails. This is usually behind the scenes content that I share on Ko-fi, because Ko-fi is where I post a lot of comics related stuff. But I'll show it off here because this has been long enough, and the finished version of this page is already public. So I have no qualms with showing off the script here. This is how I script comics a lot of the time. It's just, I open up my sketchbook and I pencil it real rough like this. And like, I know because of context clues from the previous pages of the thumbnail scripts that this is Thomas that this figure is swiping at. And this is Thomas that's kicking and then falling over. Like, I know that, so I don't have to draw Thomas's hair in panels 1 or 2. But this is like rough layout stuff. And here I'll show off the finished page so you can see that kind of transition from thumbnailed to finished art. And I'll pull them up side by side so that you can see. Like, it's not too wildly different. I mean, there are some like anatomy bits that are tightened up. There's some angles that are like more polished, and there are some things that like get improved upon. And also I added more eyes and mouths on the Mokta because I was like, you know what this needs? More eyes and mouths. Let's make this just a full-on eldritch entity here. But the general gist of it is the same. A little less sound effects. I did tighten that up a little bit. But with Jamie Roberts, from thumbnails to finished art, like, the scripting is usually like just a more polished version of the thumbnails. This is not always the case, but generally speaking, that's how the Legend of Jamie Roberts goes. So a lot of other comics actually talked about it in the behind the scenes content for the Case of the Wendigo, which you can find that at my Ko-fi shop. I'll go ahead and just put the link to Ko-fi so that y'all can check it out. Ko-fi.com/KelseyD Crawford. It has my shop where you can get a copy of the Case of the Wendigo, because the book version is what has the behind the scenes content. You won't be able to see it at charlieandcloud.com. Charlieandcloud.com is just the comics. The behind the scenes stuff, like showing off the script, seeing the transition from script to finished art, that's in the book. And that's in the back matter, the ending bits after the story is wrapped up. There's some behind the scenes stuff in the book. And there, in the Case of the Wendigo, I did not do thumbnails like I did with the Legend of Jamie Roberts. I just worked off of a script like entirely, which is why it hits a little differently. I'll go ahead and say this now about the Case of the Wendigo. Here, let me get the art back up. The Case of the Wendigo, if I knew then what I know now about the Wendigo as a figure in Native American myth making, I would have written the Case of the Wendigo very differently. As the story is, it's fine. It's serviceable. But there is a little part of me that will forever regard the Case of the Wendigo as an unfinished work because of that. Uh, it's still a good story. Like, I still had a lot of fun with making it, and I still had a lot of fun sharing it with people, and I still love reading out uh, some of the pages out loud to people. But again, if I knew then what I know now, the story would be written very differently. As it is, like, for print purposes, the book is done. Conceptually, though, in my brain, it's just going to be a work in progress. But that's kind of the way it is with just art, broadly speaking. Like, you're hardly ever finished with anything. Uh, if a finished piece of art is just something that an artist has looked at and gone, if I keep working on this, it's going to look ugly. So they have to make themselves stop. However, this piece, now that I have the highlights all added in, I'm going to change the opacity. I'm going to make it 55%. See what that does. Uh, hmm. I'm not sure that I like the highlights randomized in the hair. So let me do this. Lasso select and then paste. Okay. Undo. Redo. Do. Do. Hmm. I don't know. I could go 50-50. I could leave them out or I can leave them in. Ah, there's also just a separate layer function. There we go. I don't know. I'll let that sit. I'm going to move on to the next character and get the color flats figured out. Excuse me. Water break. Whew. That we're talking about comic scripts does remind me I got to finish the script that I had going on for National Novel Writing Month last year. I scripted a comic, and by scripted I mean I thumbnailed pages, and I largely did that because I wanted to be a rebel. And also, there was a story idea that had been sitting up in the brain part for a while that I just wanted to get down on paper just to get it out of my head. I have not finished the script still. So I'm going to see about doing that. Sometime soonish. Okay, I have the wand tool all selected. We're going to invert, and I'm going to make a new layer and call it color flats. Now we're going to get the color to white, get the paint bucket tool, refer only to editing layer so that I can do this. Doing this fills in all of the little nooks and crannies much better. It does it better than if I had just colored in each section individually. Okay, for this, I think I'm going to get like a proper like color palette up in the corner because there's just a lot of details on this dude. So color palette 2. This I yoinked from the reference material that I use for the Legend of Jamie Roberts. This is not clearly labeled because this is just in my brain part, but the top selection of colors is for skin tones. The middle selection of colors is for hair colors, and then the bottom selection of colors is for costumes. I've mentioned this in a previous live stream, which you can watch on YouTube if you so wanted. If you're watching this on Twitch, it might be archived, it might not. Twitch only archives up to a certain point. Okay, the skin color selections, though, are going to be this top bundle of colors to choose from. Occasionally, I'll dip down into here, which is technically the hair color selections. Sometimes I'll dip down into here for skin tones, but this instance, I'm coloring Yasuke, and I already know I'm going to be using this very, very dark brown. Oh, and there's Bass Reeves all sketched out. We'll get to him when we get to him. Let's go back to the samurai. For this, I'm going to switch back over to G Pen. G Pen is kind of my default pen when it comes to working. G Pen is what I use to draw the Legend of Jamie Roberts, among other comics projects. Not Puzzle Spell. Puzzle Spell, I draw traditionally, in case you were wondering. Yes, Samurai Guy. This samurai guy is Yasuke, the first black samurai in Japanese history. I wanted to incorporate him into the fighting game concept that I have just floating around in my head currently, because I think he's cool. That's it. That's all. That is the entire reason why he's here. I think he's cool. Okay, so we got that for the skin. For the armor, we have the red thread. All right, time to reference the color wheel. Okay. To make this a little more visible on the screen, I'm going to switch it over to the tint side, because there's tints and there's shades. We're going to use the tint side for this part. All right. Now, we've already established that brown is considered to be in the orange spectrum of the color family. So we're going to rotate this so that the pure color node is sitting on orange or red orange. So then, actually, we're actually going to use, there's this like web. This is like almost like an umbrella of colors. So if we look at this umbrella of tints, this is the tint family that we're working with for the main character. So that means that if we wanted an accent color to make it pop, we would go with the complement, which is a green-blue. If we wanted to work in a triad, then we would go with blue, like a blue-violet, and green. I think for this, though, we're going to work with, I think we are going to work with green-blue as an accent color. So let's get that color all figured out. Here we go. Okay, for this, let me look at the reference images that I have for this particular guy, because he is based on a real figure in history. And I have references. I have reference images for this dude. But I think they're all in black and white. So let me see. Yeah, most of the references that I have for this dude are in black and white. The exception being this guy, which is an already existing piece of art by Anzembe Jeremy. Found him on a Google search. But I don't think that I would want to pull colors directly from this character design, because this is already Anzembe's work. But it is good to know that the Japanese armor has a lot of reds. That's very good to know, actually. So we're gonna use like a red hue, kind of a muddy red. We're gonna make it like this, yeah, and then we'll have the like the threads be this brighter red color. Now, whenever you're working with colors that are like real close together like this, I find it super helpful to move the color towards either one neighbor or another neighbor. That way you're not working in the same hue. Because here, I just color sampled this red, this brighter red on the top row. If I had made it just straight up darker, it would look like this, which it could work, but it's too close for my liking. So instead, I had moved the module on the larger circle here. I had moved it closer towards orange so that it would better complement the darker brown that I'm going to be using for his skin. And I made it this color on the bottom right, because that'll complement the skin color better, and it's still within the same color family as the red accent here. So that's how we're going to do that. I hope you find all of this like super helpful as far as like color picking and like color choices for character design goes. Getting some water. Okay. So we got those. Okay, so we're working with a lot of reds and oranges. Okay, so I changed up the color wheels. This is our main color, because if we flip it over and look at the shades, the red-orange color will eventually get dark enough that it'll lead us to our chosen skin tone. So as far as picking the other colors go, we're going to go with more of a complement or split complement scenario. Split complement is you take your original color and then you go to the opposite end of the color wheel and then you look at the two neighbors of that opposite. So in this instance, we're working with red-orange. Its opposite is green-blue. The neighbors of green-blue are blue and blue-green. And I realize this sounds a little sus for people who don't know much anything about color theory, but it works. It does work. So we're going to work with blues and blue-greens for accents and other things. All right, so we got this, which is a green-blue. If I remember correctly. Yeah, that's a green-blue. So we're going to go with this direction for blue. We're going to maybe brighten that up a little bit. Brighten it up some more. Yeah. And then this direction and a darker green. There we go. Okay, let's work with this color palette and we'll see where that gets us for other layers. Oh, let's go with a little off black for the hair and this color for the eyes. There we go. Okay, back to skin. Yeah, I didn't figure very much skin would show on Yasuke here because he is in armor. He's in full regalia, but The parts that are visible, I want them to match. Okay, now for the armor, we already got the thread. So the thread color is this brighter red. So for the armor, I'm going to use this darker red. To start, let's see how it looks. It might be easier to shade this in if I turn the thread layer off. Hmm, it's not that drastically different. I forgot that the threads had already been outlined in the ink layer. It's just the threads. I used the effect layer to give them that little black border. That was what happened. Ah, okay. Just realized I was like, why am I trying to color around the threads? I can realistically color under the threads because threads are on a higher layer than the color flats are, and it wouldn't affect the color of the threads at all. And it turns out that I was right. Okay. Okay. Some of these, I think. Oh, let's try a kind of a mid dark hue of this. Yeah. Oh, I was about to select refer only to editing layer, but that would turn the entire helmet this color. So I'm just going to keep it to refer other layers so that I can do this. Okay. We'll do this for now for the colors. We'll revisit this later after I color a little bit more in some other areas. No, I never did add a Because, like, on this, his left, but our right, there's the shoulder part, and then there's two arm pads. On the other side, he's only got the one. And I'm looking at this and I just realized that. Part of me wants to add that second padding so that it's a little more mirrored, but then there's another part of me that's like, just leave it off. It gives a little more character that way. So I will think on that because the rest of him's pretty symmetrical, but this, I'm going to circle it with orange here. This is missing this counterpoint. And I don't know whether to edit that in or not. There we go. Okay. Oop, there we go. Am I recording a time lapse with this character? Oh, okay. I am recording a time lapse with this character. I was wondering why he was taking a little extra long to save the file as I'm working on him, and that's why. Because Clip Studio Paint is recording the process as I am working on him. That way I'll be able to actually export all of the stages from pencils to finished piece as a single time lapse. Obviously sped up because like what you're watching right now is kind of a time lapse, but in real time. When this gets exported as a time lapse later, it's going to be like super duper sped up, usually within like a 30-second span. I'm so glad that Clip Studio incorporated that in an update that they had released a little while ago, actually. But I'm just real glad that they added time lapses as a feature in their software because, like, that has changed up my social media game significantly. Okay, for this, I think I am going to turn the thread layer off. Oop. Yeah. Okay. Go into the color flats, and we're going to use the polyline tool because these are straight-ish lines. Boop. And then we're going to refer only to editing layer. Boom. Done. That way we don't have to worry about the checkered lines. And turn that thread layer back on. Oh, I used, okay. I'm going to change the color of the threads down here on his waist part. Let's make them a light blue. So we're going to go to the thread layer. We're going to lock transparent pixels so that we can get our G pen, widen the nib, and do this. So much faster to do it this way. God, I love Clip Studio. Oh, and we're going to change the colors of these circles up here. Let's make them green. There. What if they were a darker green? Nah, that shade will be fine. Okay. Sorry, I had to handle a spammer that had been posting in the chat. Okay, so we got that figured out. Okay, back to the reds. I forgot. Let's change that paint bucket back to refer other layers. Okay. All right, so that's his armor. Now for the underside parts. You know what? We're going to change this color, this kind of tealy color. We're going to change that back to reds. So refer only to editing layer so that this is easier to do. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's much better. All right. Now, got all that figured out. Boop. This darker blue-green. Let's put it under here. Oh, yes, refer other layers. Or refer only to the layer. Okay. This one we're going to refer other layers. Boop. Because the belts for this chest plate under here are going to be a different color. Oh, wand, select this area, delete. Fill that in with white. There. Okay, back to the teal color. Well, shrink that brush back down to 20 so that we can fill in some of these itty bitty nooks and crannies. Yeah, the turn everything white trick works mostly. It doesn't work all the time. Okay. We got that. What about this green? What if it were a little more washed out? Yeah, that's better. Because the previous color was a little bit too concentrated. Saturated might be the better word. I don't know. But this kind of a washed out gray version of the green, I like it a lot better. This is most of digital coloring, picking a color and then being like, let's try something else and going in a different way. Whew. Oh, while I'm thinking about it, let me go back to that first character design that we were working on, the one that we just did highlights and shadows for. I'll leave those in. All right. They are done. So we're just going to save. And we are going to, well, we're going to turn the gray layer off so that we can save this as a PNG. Because PNGs have transparent backgrounds. Very important for what I want to do with this art. There we go. So that's one character design done. I can mark that off on my list. I am one of those people that has like an excessive number of lists, but it helps me keep track of things. Okay. Ow. Just bumped my elbow against the table. That hurt. Okay. The boots. Ooh. Let's look at what a darker version of this teal would look like. Get the little nooks. Okay, filled in all the little nooks. So we got that. I think maybe a little more gray, like a darker gray. Yeah, I think that'll work. It's like a slight difference. Probably most of you will not even see the difference, but it's subtle, but it's there. Okay. Got all that. Puzzling over the accent colors. You know what? Let me just. I know I'd worked on this color palette swatch thing over here, but we're going to delete that. Okay. Let's change up the banner. It's been a while since I changed up the banner. I'm going to get some more water. It occurred to me it's been overcast today, so I'm just going to turn the light on the side over there. Oh! Ouch. Okay, let's change up the banner. Oh! It's been a hot minute since I talked about this. I did a mini comic called The Legend of Azumi. You can download it at tinyurl.com/TLOAM. That stands for The Legend of Azumi. It's short. It's like less than 20 pages, but it is a short story that was unlocked by the folks who backed The Legend of Jamie Roberts Volume 1 on Kickstarter. The Legend of Azumi is about a baker and her wife a few years after the Dragon War, which is something that happens in the past. And they're just chilling, doing their thing, doing their everyday thing of running a bakery. But then their neighbors start disappearing. And so they're trying to parse out the mystery as to why that's happening. It's free to download at tinyurl.com/TLOAM. Give that give that a look see. I hope you enjoy it. I had a lot of fun making that, and I want to do more mini comics like that in the future this year. So, fingers crossed, hoping we can make that happen. All right, back to the colors. Ooh, let's get this red. And let's go with like a darker hue of this on towards the more red violet side. There we are. What if we flipped those? I kind of like that better. We'll go with that for now. Might change before this wraps up. Okay, for this, we're gonna, because I'm gonna color in the ropes next. So let's just get it towards more red orange, and we're gonna get some gray in there. Prefer only. There we go. That works. Might be a good color for the handle of this, whoops, sword as well. Oh, but the belt, that belt needs colored in. Yeah, refer only to this layer. Boop. That way these can be updated as well. There we go. All right, looking good so far. Yeah. Oop. Refer other layers. There. Let's make that a little more overtly red. Okay. Oh, boots. We'll take the color from the boots. Okay, so far so good. Let me go back into the ink layer, though, and add. There, that's better. Back to color flats. Oh, forgot to change it back to refer other layers. Aha. Better. Eh. Those little pockets along his belt, we're gonna have it this blue. And there we go. All right, we got his color flats all figured out. Almost forgot the horns. Oops. The horns. We're gonna color lift from the rope. Wait. The blues, the blues. Okay. Well, to that end, let's make the pouches a little darker. Wait. More towards a pure blue. Do it that way. All right. Yeah. There we go. We got that figured out. Yes. We'll revisit him later. First, I'm going to ink in Bass Reeves. New layer. I'm going to call this inks. Keeping it normal, not multiply, not screen, just normal. Okay, now Bass Reeves, I do have reference images for this guy. They're just in a different spot. Remembering that spot is a different game entirely. There he is. Okay, I found him. The actual picture of actual Black Deputy Bass Reeves. Yes, he was a real figure of history. He has a much rounder face than I thought he did. Oh, whoops. I was drawing on the ink layer, not the pencils. Okay, there we go. Honestly, he had great facial hair. I'm gonna just say it. There we go. Now, I realize that propriety at the time would dictate that he wear that bow tie and such, but like I like to imagine that when he's out doing his thing, working, that he does not have the bow tie and his shirt's just open. So artistic license, that's what I'm gonna do. Cowboy hat, though, I'm gonna pull up an actual photo reference for that because cowboy hats are hard. I'm gonna look in my reference images folder first and see if I can find somebody wearing a cowboy hat already. It's a crapshoot. That's a concept art piece, not an actual like photo reference. I'm gonna try to find a photo reference. Hmm. Well, I gotta go to Dr. Google. Hold on. Or at least Dr. DuckDuckGo. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. We got some decent cowboy hats out of this search. I'm gonna go with oh, that's a children's hat. Ooh. Oh, wait, I think that counts as a fedora. Never mind. Here we go. Here, I'll show you what I'm going to be working with here in a sec. Sweaty work is what this is. Okay, here's the hat that I'm going to use as reference. So we're going to make a new layer. We're going to set the original pencils to about 50% opacity. Pencils, new hat. That way I'm not erasing too much, because there are some things that I got right. Other things I'm going to change. We're going to use a red pencil. I feel like I've mentioned this in a live stream previously, but in the newest Magnificent Seven movie, the one with Denzel Washington in it, Denzel Washington plays a deputy, and a lot of his character is based off of Bass Reeves. Now, there will be some people who will say that Lone Ranger is based on Bass Reeves. I find that hard to believe, because Bass Reeves was black. And that's part of why he is a important figure in history, is because he was black. Not many people know that he was one of the first black deputies. Right now, I have the Ultimate Showdown of Ultimate Destiny playing in my head, because one of the lyrics had Chuck Norris name dropped in there. That's a wild song. It's just a big old crossover event of how all of these pop culture characters are duking it out to see who's the best one. I'm largely thinking about that because Kyle Calgarin, aka Brows Held High, did a video recently about the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. If you want in for a questionably fun time, I recommend that video, because I need other people to know that Alan Moore, there's a lot about Alan Moore that already makes you go, ow, ow. You're smarter than this. You have to be smarter than this. And a lot of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the original comic series, is a lot of that. It is an epic mustache. Not gonna lie. It is a very epic mustache, and I love it. I surprisingly love drawing facial hair on characters. It does help to have a caricature background, though. I will freely admit that because people who I get the feeling that people who bitch about drawing facial hair are people who have primarily learned to draw anime characters. Anime does not particularly like to draw facial hair on characters. um, so if you really want to practice drawing facial hair on characters, um, draw caricatures, or at least like try to reference other artists who draw facial hair well. Um, Admittedly, a lot of Renaissance art does this pretty well. Um, I think what helps is looking at facial hair and being like, how would this be laid with a brush? So I hope that helps. I hope that helps you if you ever feel like drawing facial hair on somebody. Because it's not, unlike most drawing, you are not outlining the shape of facial hair. Facial hair is something that is brushed on in a way. It's yeah, it's hard for me to articulate this into words, but like I can draw it out and show you. Here, I'm changing up the banner. We're gonna go for another 5 minutes. Another 5 minutes, and then I'm gonna wrap this up. Okay. So I got that hat. Oh, his ears are actually more pronounced. Let's change that up, shall we? There we go. Yeah, that works. Okay. I'm going to use the lasso tool to select the hat that I had previously drawn, and we're just going to delete that and use this new hat. Yeah. I realize the bright red stands out from the green, but it's the pencil layer. It doesn't have to be all the same color because it's going to be going at 50%, and the inks are going to get drawn on top of it anyway. As long as the inks are the same color, that's for this project, the inks need to be the same color. Okay, I'm going to X out of that so that I can get to inking this in. I like having as big of a screen as I possibly can when inking. Ooh. I was going to draw this with my G pen, but I think I'm going to use real G pen because grit. This is a Wild West character. Gotta have some grit. To finish my thought earlier, that Ultimate Showdown of Ultimate Destiny, that song, one of the first memes that circulated online, also showcased as the song that plays during the end credits of Kyle Calgarin's video about the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Because the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is a crossover story. Like most of the great works of literature, This is something that I don't think a lot of people want to admit about great literature, but a lot of great literature is crossover fan fiction. And I'm not talking about like Marvel or DC or anything like that. I'm talking like the original Journey to the West was a crossover. Because it referenced other like Indian and Buddhist myths and just mushed them all together into Journey to the West. Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy, Inferno, Purgatorio, Paradiso, is a self-insert crack fic that helped him process his grief about being exiled. And it just got accepted into Catholic canon as just how heaven is structured. Um, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is a crossover event, which is just absolutely bonkers. So yeah, I don't believe it when people are like, "There's no. Why do you keep writing fan fiction? Like nobody should continue to write fan fiction once they're past 30." And I'm like, Dante Alighieri is a figure that wrote a self-insert crack fic when he was a full-grown adult, and yet his is considered a great piece of literature. Journey to the West exists, and it is a crossover fanfic. So like I don't trust anybody who's like, stop writing fan fiction. It's so stupid. Like clearly you're not as well read as you think you are. There we go. This is what I meant when I was trying to articulate drawing facial hair earlier. Yeah, that line works. I was about to redraw it, but I'm going to keep it. Okay. It is about that hour. It is now 4 o'clock. I think it's time that I wrap this up. So, before I go into the thank yous, couple housekeeping things. So, I stream every Tuesday and Saturday, and that'll be the case for this upcoming week, as far as I know. Official live stream schedule will be announced on Instagram, on Ko-fi, and on Patreon. All of those links are at linktree/KelseyD. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, they're linked in the doobly-doo. You can download The Legend of Azumi free. Tips are optional, but it is available for free. And that is going to be on Ko-fi. Also, the link for that is on my link tree or in the doobly-doo. If you liked today's live stream and you're watching this on YouTube, please give this a like, because likes do actually boost me in the algorithm, the almighty algorithm, I guess. If you're watching this on Twitch, feel free to subscribe if you like. And if you're watching this on Twitter, feel free to give me a follow. If you're watching this on any one of these platforms individually and you want to subscribe to something in particular, Links are on my link tree. I'm also on Instagram at Kelsey D. Crawford. If you liked what you watched, as far as just me drawing character art and talking about my process of designing characters and things like that, just let me know in the comments, because like I read all your comments. Obviously I interact with the chat. So also thank you to everybody in the chat for chatting with me today. Like, y'all are awesome. And thank you for keeping the conversation going. And if you did not participate in the chat, I still appreciate you being here. So thank you for watching. We'll get into proper thank yous here in a minute. I also have a webcomic, The Legend of Jamie Roberts. You can check that out at thelegendofjamieroberts.com. I also run something called the Sticker of the Month Club. Sticker of the Month Club, you can give as little as $1 a month. $1 a month gets you the ability to vote on sticker designs, access to my Tiny Dinos Discord server, among other perks. If you give, I believe the next one up is $10 a month, but there is a tier between $1 a month and $20 a month that you subscribe to get a sticker in your mailbox each month. And if you want to sign up for that and check out all of the perks, you can check that out at patreon.com/KelseyDStickers. I do also have a Ko-fi. That is at kofi.com/KelseyDCrawford. If you give $10 a month on Ko-fi, I will consider you a member of the Sticker of the Month Club, and you'll get stickers that way. I just need a mailing address so that I can mail you your stickers. I'm also available for commissions. That'll also be at kofi.com/KelseyDCrawford. And I think that's it for now. Next week, I'll be actually releasing some blog posts. I teased about one of the topics already earlier in the stream when I talked about cryptocurrencies and why I think Kickstarter using blockchain technology is a bad idea. I'll be writing a blog post about that and my concerns about it. My hope with that is that it does the same thing that public pressure did to Kickstarter before, because Kickstarter got public pressure before to accept their workers getting unionized. Because their workers wanted to unionize. Kickstarter was like, nah, we don't want you to. And it was public activism and pressure that made Kickstarter change their mind. My hope is that the same thing can happen with their stance regarding blockchain technology. I feel that blockchain technology is a really bad move. It is not as secure as the evangelists like to try to paint it out to be. I think it's going to be more of a harm than a good. And NFTs are a phenomenally bad idea. Obviously, Dan Olson has an entire video about the problem with NFTs. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that next week in a blog post. I'm also going to keep making my webcomics, The Legend of Jamie Roberts and Puzzle Spell. And I also want to make a blog post regarding something in the legendofjamieroberts.com, or in the Legend of Jamie Roberts in the story, because I'll get into it whenever the blog post comes out. But there's been some food for thought lately, and I want to get my thoughts out about it. So keep an eye out for that. Links to the blog, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, if you wanted to. On Twitter, I just post hot takes and silly things and reblog a lot of stuff. But links to Twitter, also my webcomics and my other stuff are all at linktree/KelseyD. If you're watching this on YouTube, link in the doobly-doo. Feel free to subscribe on YouTube or Twitch or both. I'm not the boss of your life. I hope you liked this live stream where we continued making character arts for this fighting game concept. I'm hoping to do more of them next week. Well, that's all for now. Thank y'all so much for watching. You are awesome.